Diana, I got your number from your resume on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah, and I'm an old student of, and like you, we had a relationship. I don't know the circumstances of your relationship with him, but it concerns me to see his behavior continued long after I knew him. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk to me about your experience. If not, I respect that.
Sarah, I am at a loss of words, but also have so much to say. Yes, I would love to talk to you about this. Were you a student in Iowa? This is Diana.
This is Sarah.
And this is Blooming After Grooming, our podcast.
Oh my God, the dream.
What a dream.
I will say I had a lot of I keep continuing to have people reaching out about the pod, and it's very cool. My coworker said her and her mom listened to it all the way back from Duluth, which is like a really long drive, like hours and hours. And her mom apparently kept saying, let's listen to another one. Let's just listen to one more. I know. And she said that her and her mom like ended up having a conversation about like abusive relationships and like how charismatic abusive people can be. It was just, Diana, it's just good things are happening out there. And it feels pretty cool to hear that you and I are part of that.
No. I love that our podcast, for a fact, has helped facilitate conversations between a mother and a child twice.
Yep. Yes.
That feels like a win.
And my coworker that ran into Janet Peterson, I talked to her afterwards and she was like, oh man, she beelined for us. And she was like, which one of you knows Sarah Headland? Boo, 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 boo. And Amy had told me she had listened to like the first episode. So I just kind of assumed that she like, maybe listened to the first one and then like tapped out. No, dude, she was like up to snuff on all of our episodes, my coworker. And she was the one that told Janet that Janet was in the Big Women episode. And then my coworker was like, I even told men, just like you told listeners to. So we got a little hype army out there, man.
I love it. Okay.
Dance. Let's do this thing, chicken wing. What are we talking about today? Diana, welcome back.
Welcome back to Blooming After Grooming. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Diana.
Today,
hi, listeners.
Hey, listeners. Yes. Hello to all you out there. Thank you for coming back and wanting to hear more. But yeah, so today we're continuing the conversation on the school investigation. So where we left off, the investigation started in September, and I think where we left off was around like December, January. We also talked a little bit about how the Illinois State Board of Education, ISB, was kind of dragging their feet. Like I sent them they were part of the email that I sent originally, and then I mentioned that I also did like a misconduct report form that I sent. And so I got a response back 2 weeks after that, back in August, from the investigator special assistant, and it just said received. And then I didn't reach out again until November. So what's that? September, October, 3 months, 3 months. And then I email again and I asked for an update. And I think you had also reached out to her because, I think we both did, because I have here in my timeline that basically she gave us the same exact response, which I actually haven't.
Yeah, because I think there was a little bit, especially in Illinois, of us like, if you didn't get a response, then I would follow up and see if I could get a response to see if, we could just kind of push people towards answers or at least updates or at the very least response, because I think, there was definitely some people that were not great at even responding to your emails.
November 7, I emailed 2022. I emailed the, what is she? Investigator special assistant to the investigator is kind of what that sounds like.
Assistant to the regional manager investigator.
Yeah. And I said, hello, I have not heard any update since this email on August 16th. Which was the email that she said just received. That was all the response was. Could someone from ISB please provide an update on the investigation ASAP? Thank you. And then 2 days later, she said, ISB is in receipt of your complaint. We do not comment on ongoing investigations. If more information is required, you will be contacted. Have a good day. And I'm pretty sure that's the exact same thing that she sent to you.
Yeah. Which I understand, and Iowa kind of did the same thing, but it does feel, I get it. I do. I truly do. But I do feel like it feels very strange when you are the victim to be told that like they can't talk to you about an investigation into your own abuse. Feels very weird. It's almost like if you were into the doctor and they like wouldn't talk to you about your own illness when you're the one that walked into the hospital and said, I'm sick. You
Yes.
know,
And
like it feels strange, even though it
it
makes sense.
it does make sense, and I get why you would need to protect an investigation. But at this point, I was very skeptical whether or not there was even an investigation going on
Mhm.
because it was 3 months later and nothing, like I had heard nothing from ISB. The school, yes, there was an ongoing investigation there. Like I knew that that was happening, but from ISB, we just heard received and that was it. So 4 days after her response, I replied, "Good morning. Is there an actual ongoing investigation going on?" Two question marks. I submitted I submitted this complaint 3 months ago and no one has reached out to me to interview me or get information. So what exactly is ISB doing? And then she responded, I have responded to your inquiry. I have copied the educator misconduct attorney. If she has anything to add, she will. Have a good day. And then the assistant legal counsel, which is her official title, she was like, "Hey, you want to have a phone call with me to discuss your complaint?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And I give her my availability. And then we ended up talking on the phone. So I too understand the need to protect an investigation, but and I know they're also understaffed. I it was frustrating. It was just so
Yeah.
frustrating as the victim going through this process, having absolutely no experience, not having the hindsight that we have now of I put myself out there. I sent this thing to people to institutions that are supposed to look into and investigate to help protect other kids and for me to hopefully get some sense of accountability, and then to just be left hanging by those institutions was disheartening and
Yeah.
incredibly frustrating. So if you can't tell, I was hot and pretty
Well,
pretty angry.
it goes back to kind of what we talked about before with the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners, which was that like flow chart that somebody finally gave me like fucking 9 months into the process of like, oh, well, these are the steps. And once we make a decision, then it has to go to this upper board, and then the upper board has to make a decision. And then we will have an ability to negotiate with the accused. And it was like, what the fuck? Why was that not in a packet that I received? Like,
Mhm.
I just think there's all these assumptions that people know the processes. There's these assumptions that you're going to like find this information on, I'm sorry, government websites, which are fucking trash. Like, all government websites are terrible. They are like poorly laid out, they're poorly designed. The verbiage, you need like a lawyer to decipher what the fuck it says anyways. I think you and I have often talked about how we wish there was like a owner's manual or a how-to guide of like, this is your state, these are the categories, this is the steps that you take, and then this is the actual process of how this goes down, because all you and I know about is Illinois and Iowa. Who
Mm,
the fuck knows what the process
yeah.
is anywhere else? So yeah, I would agree with you. It is frustrating, and I think anytime that an organization, be it the government or a company or any group of humans that have a process and they're not explaining to you what the process is or why the process is that way, human nature is just assume that you're being fucked over. Like that's
Mhm.
just
Yes.
right. Like with jobs, like if they don't explain to you why you need to give them 2 weeks heads up for PTO, you're just going to assume that place is being shitty and they're like not letting you live your life. And it's like, no, actually, maybe it's that the schedule's really fucking intricate for the group of people that work there. And if you don't show up, you're fucking over your team and everyone else
Mm.
has jobs that are really not flexible. Like, whatever. There's a reality there that if you don't explain it, other people will fill in the blanks. And the fill in blank is usually going to be, you woke up today and chose to fuck me over. you know? And I think you and I felt that a lot of just kind of why is this so hard and why are we having to ask so many questions? And I still stand by it. Like I think we did have to do an unreasonable amount of following up and pestering and inquiring that I don't think we should have had to, because I think it's a really unreasonable burden to put on survivors. Like I can't imagine if we were young and we had, if you were a minor and your parent was having to do this for you on top,
No.
yeah. So you're like a parent trying to raise your fucking kids and have a job and run a house, and you're supposed to be hunting down your state board and yelling at them. Like, that's a lot.
It was, like, unnecessarily hard because she had no problem. The actual attorney, if
Mhm.
for the case, had no problem getting on the phone with me and explaining to me the process. So, yes, when we received that email that just said received, 100%, there should have been some kind of brochure or website or something being like, here's like what you posted on the Instagram recently, the what's it officially called? The Aya Bowie complaint resolution
Hiya, Bowie.
process. Yes, why wouldn't submitting a complaint just activate, "Oh, let's give this person information."
It
It's
would
not
also save them time because then we wouldn't have fucking bugged them as much. Like, if they had given you a
yeah.
heads up on the front end of like, "Hey, we received your complaint. We are going to open an investigate," because I don't even feel like they did that with you. Like, at least in Iowa, they followed up and said, "We
Nope.
received a complaint. We're reviewing." And then it was like a week or two later, it was like, "We have decided to open an investigation." And then it was like, "This investigation has been officially assigned to this person. Here is the case number for this investigation." But then from there and on out, it was very much like, you have to go to the website and you have to know your case number. And every single month after the monthly meetings, you have to see if there's been a determination. But at least they gave me that. Like in Illinois,
Yeah.
they were just like, "Okay, bye." Like there was
Yeah.
nothing.
It's like, "We got it. We have it in our inbox, and that's the
Yeah.
only acknowledgement you're getting." It's
Yeah. Which
yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
So, when I did end up speaking with the attorney, she did talk me through kind of what the process would look like. So she said that the first step is to gather information. So my question was like, okay, I don't think I asked this, but and now I'm really wondering like what information have you been gathering for the last 3
Hmm.
months? So step 1 is gather information. Step 2 is evaluate the case to see how strong it is, which is why I think I was so confused, like, why aren't these investigators interviewing anybody? Like, why isn't
Yeah.
ISB interviewing me? Why isn't the school interviewing former students and former
Hmm.
staff? So it just like, on one hand, it's like, oh, well, we need to get both situations, both investigations are telling me we need to get information. What information are you getting for 3 months? Okay. So
Well, in that
step,
3 months, they were getting all of our research is what they were getting, because that was the time that you and I were talking to all of our classmates and
yeah.
collecting written statements from those classmates. Because everything I got, I sent to ISB as well, and the school.
Yes.
Like, I was like, "Copy, paste, fucking here you go, bitches." Like, I shared that with everybody. So, I mean, I think that was also the frustration, is it felt like those 3 months were them just letting us do all of the work while simultaneously telling you to like,
Yeah.
why don't you fuck off?"
Step 3, present a statement of charges. Step 4, hire an outside law firm to serve the paperwork. I don't know what the exact thing is,
Yeah, so
but
same thing in
yeah.
Iowa, they had to serve him papers, because remember, that's when he was all elusive and shit, and, like, they couldn't find him, and they were, like,
Mm,
trying to find a new address for him because he had, like, left to go move in with his mommy, and they couldn't hunt him down to serve him the papers to let him know that they were investigating him.
exactly. So
So I didn't think
after
about that, he got served papers 2 times. Well, 3 times probably.
yeah, yeah, 3 times. Teaser. So you hire the law firm. So then he gets a copy of the complaint, and then he would have 10 days to request a hearing.
Mm.
And she said that if he has an attorney, that attorneys can always draw out the process. And if he did request a hearing and got a hearing, that the hearing officer would be the one to decide if the hearing is public.
We
Go
wanted
ahead.
it to be public because we were like,
Yes.
"Fuck this guy. We want it to be known." And they were like, "Well, but you're talking about abuse of a minor." And it's like, "But you're the minor and you're giving approval. So fuck that."
Yes.
Like the
I
whole
want
time,
torches.
yes, like we were just like, "Dude, we do not want this guy hiding in the fucking shadows." And it also feels like to do it behind closed doors also protects the school district, which again is just one of those things of like, I don't fucking care, dude. Like, this is not about protecting people who were in the positions to stop this abuse. Like, this is about protecting the person that was fucking abused. And if that person is like light it up on the marquee, then let's fucking
Yeah.
go. Like, yeah. God, I
It
forgot about all that.
is, yeah, it's a tactic just to keep things quiet, to sweep
Yep.
things under the rug. But yeah, if the victim is saying, make this shit public, I would
Mhm.
rather, because I would have to testify. That was something else she said, is that I would have to
Yeah.
testify with him there.
Ugh.
Fuck
Yep.
no, I would not want to be in a room where it's just like me, maybe
Mm-mm.
like my family, maybe I don't even know. Like I would not, I would rather have a group of people. I'd rather have other amped up, angry community members
Yeah.
there than have to just testify in an empty room with him there. That sounds
Yeah. I
fucking
for
awful. It's
I
not
for
a victim friendly system.
No, I forgot all about that. Yeah, because if it was closed door, because I remember we had this whole conversation about if it's closed door, can at least I be there
Mhm.
for you? And they were like, no. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like you are asking people to sit in a room with their abuser and detail what their abuser did to them with zero personal advocates in the room for them. And I remember, God, I can't remember who it was that I was like bitching about that too, if it was Isby or if it was Iboe or who it was. But I remember like saying that, and whoever it was I was talking to was like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. And I was just like, what the fuck? No one's thought of this. Like, I guess if you're a minor, your parent would be in the room with you, obviously, for like legal reasons. But it's like, what about anyone who's 18 and over? Like, it's just like, fuck you, sucks to be you. You have to go into that room just scared shitless and re-traumatized, and you don't have anyone else in the room that you can like even look at for strength. Like, what an awful, awful process.
And what an awful process. Yes, like that's, I think, another, as we've talked about, another reason why people don't say anything, don't come forward,
Mhm.
because this is not a fun process to go through and even have to think about, like the idea of being alone and testifying. I mean, I would have done it. I would have
Yeah.
done it. I would have gone somewhere in my head and, done it. If he appealed and requested a hearing, if he requested the hearing and it went to that, a possible outcome of that hearing would be either his teaching license in Illinois would be suspended or it could be revoked. And so she was explaining the difference between the two. So if his license was revoked, he would never be able to get his license back. He would not be able to even substitute teach, which I feel like that's a given, but that's one thing she
Mhm.
mentioned. He would not be able to substitute teach. And then she also did tell me that it would get reported to the NASDAQ or whatever that acronym is. So people know about
Yeah.
this NASDAQ. So she mentioned it would get reported. And then she said that if his license was suspended, that it could be up to 5 years, but that would be up to the hearing officer, which
Mhm.
I don't understand, but I don't understand law. So, I mean, whatever. And then the State Education Preparation and License Board would either accept or reject the hearing officer's decision,
Mhm.
and he could still appeal that, and then that would go to circuit court. So, 3 months after submitting my educator misconduct report, we finally had this information, and
Mhm.
it was really overwhelming. And I think you also had a call with her, Sarah, where she also outlined the process with you. I have a note somewhere that you were like, "It's really complicated."
Yeah, and honestly, it's very similar to the process of the Iowa board as well. Like, again, and I don't ever want it to sound like, oh, we shouldn't have all these processes because then, there should be due process. ICE,
Yeah.
there should be due process. It's our legal system.
Mm.
And I think it is important for people to realize that. And this is very specific to just educator abuse. I have
Yes,
no
good
idea
point.
what it's like if it's a medical person, if it's a lawyer, if it's a, therapist. Who the fuck knows what those boards processes are like? But I would assume similarly complicated.
Due process is important, like, there should
Yep.
be a process, and I understand too that someone truly impartial, like a hearing
Mhm.
officer and this board, I do wanna mention the, it doesn't have the best acronym, SEPLB, the state State and SEPLB, maybe SEPLB,
Hmm.
State Education Preparation and License Board. It's made up of 19 members. At the time, it was 19 members. I don't know what it is today. 19 members of various levels of education. So, like principals, superintendents, professors, deans, teachers. So I do appreciate that there are these different perspectives or different people reviewing the case. I think my frustration through all of this was just being left in the dark. Same thing.
Yeah.
And I know right now we're talking about the state board investigation
Mhm.
within this episode of School Investigation Part 2, but only because ISB's investigation was, I still don't know what the fuck they did. Like, they didn't make a decision until there was already other decisions made. So that's why
I
we're
mean,
just peppering this in.
were we ever interviewed by them?
No, I was never interviewed by them.
Hmm.
There was, okay, so pause. Back into the episode.
Ah.
Uh yeah, just being left in the dark didn't feel good. It sucked.
I don't know. I don't know how to say that they could make that better. I mean, I think like you and I both said, just making it very clear in the front end, this is the process. This is what we can and cannot give to you. This is what we can and cannot discuss with you. You know, if you don't hear back from us, this is why. Like, I don't know. I do think it could have been so much better. And I agree. I don't know what the school in Illinois was doing through their entire investigation. Cause to your point, or what we just said, is like, I don't remember them calling me. I don't remember them talking to me about any of it. So yeah, it is kind of troubling to look back on, which I do think really proves that I think Illinois just sat and waited for Iowa, you know,
Yeah.
which thank God Iowa did something.
I think in one of your email responses, you had mentioned that you talked to the attorney and that she shared that um, the office is understaffed. That it's like 3 people or something
Hmm.
investigating all the misconduct reports that come in. So I understand, like, one person can only do so much. I get that. It's hard to follow up with every single person when we have a massive caseload. But then, I mean, where are our tax money going? You know, like what how can we improve that? How can we fund this
But
really important
Diana,
office?
we need to be funding Trump's vacations to Scotland to open up his new personally
Oh,
owned
yes.
golf course. We
How
don't
could I
need to be
forget that was the
paying
priority?
yeah, for funding these kinds of programs or children having food or access to medical care. America, we're doing great. Um
Ugh.
yeah, well, and I think that that's been the one of the many interesting aspects of this whole process has been realizing that public education, I mean, I always knew public education was poorly underfunded, right? And undersupported in our country. But then to also realize that we're not even funding the investigative side of it. So it's like a perfect storm. I mean, like you're not supporting good people to be good teachers, and you're also not supporting good people to keep bad actors out of it. So it's just like such a shitstorm top to bottom. And I think it's been an interesting thing where I think some people have kind of been like, well, are you anti-teacher or are you anti-public school because you're talking about how we need to better fund these investigatory boards or we need to better vet these people? And it's like, no, I think you and I are both very pro public school and pro good non-predator teachers. Uh, but there is a reality of the world out there that there are a lot of bad actors, you know, getting into these professions because it gives them a lot of access to kids. Yeah, and I think it's just heartbreaking that that's the reality of a lot of these boards. And you know, I don't think Iowa is in as big of a pickle as Illinois is as far as their board being underfunded or understaffed. And there's just a lot less people, right? Like there's going to be less
Mm,
cases in Iowa than Illinois because the population density is just so fucking different. And so I think I, you know, tried to have a little understanding of that. But to me, if anything, that means Illinois' board should be even more robust. It should be
right.
even more people working there and well funded because you are handling so many more cases. And studies show that people of color are way more likely to suffer childhood sexual abuse. And guess what? There's a lot more of in Illinois than Iowa. People of color. So like
Yeah.
you are talking about more people, and then you're also talking about a specific group of people that are at a higher risk, and they have less people helping protect them. Like, it's just a double whammy.
So I do have an email that you sent pulled up. So I'm just gonna like pull things. Sorry
Yeah,
to speak for you.
Oh, yeah.
I'll read some things that might trickle your memory. Okay. So
Do it in a Sarah voice.
Ah! I'll do your voice that you like to do sometimes. I can't do it as good. It's a little higher. I can't do
This voice, this little tiny voice.
Yeah, that one.
I have a lot of voices. Anyways,
Okay.
you go right ahead.
So apparently she told you that she gave us both the timeline. A year from the entire investigation being handed over to a ruling. So that was helpful and we were being told that left and right. Like, this is going to take time, but it was helpful to at least be told, like, expect at least a year. She informed me that my report, testimony, and other Iowa witnesses to behavior might not be allowed into this hearing if his lawyer convinces the hearing officer to exclude it and only focus on Illinois actions. That I don't fucking understand. Like, why does that happen? Why? I don't understand the logic of similar things happening, but in a different state does not belong in this case.
Well, because the system is made by men who like to abuse women and girls, and so they make it to benefit themselves.
Is that really the answer?
Girl, that's a fucking answer to everything that's happening in our world right now. Let me tell you.
So true.
Oh, dark days. Yes. So, I mean, it's kind of like when we were talking about the police investigation in Illinois at the beginning. The fact that the Illinois police even talked to me at all, they didn't have to do that because they can't do anything about it because my abuse took place in Iowa. They have no jurisdiction. Like, it is not their circus. I am not their monkey. Right. And so I think that's kind of the idea. Is like the Illinois board can't do anything about him abusing a student in Iowa because they do not have the power to do anything about it. And so I think it just creates kind of a loophole where, like, if his lawyer had tried to like press, they could have been like, well, fuck it. You shouldn't listen to anything this lady in Iowa has to say because you can't do anything about it. So it doesn't count against what we're doing. Just like, girl, remember how when we were talking about not plot twists, but foreshadowing, like, we were talking to a lawyer and they said that if there was ever a court case against him, and say we had 12 former students that had said he said creepy shit to me or he invited me to his house, blah, 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 that they could literally prevent all of those victims from coming forward in a court case because lawyers could argue that it's like not pertinent to the story or that
How?
Oh, because wasn't it that it was like, oh, well, if one of you, if you already have one witness like me say that this happened, you don't need 12 more saying it happened too, because you've already proved that that's happened. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, our justice system is so fucking messed up, dude. It's infuriating. Case in point, why fucking Trump is our president right now and is not in a prison cell where he fucking deserves to be. Anyways.
Let's all just scream into the sky silently.
Very sorry. Very hot about that right now. Very hot about it.
It's hard to not be. Yeah. That I remember being very confused about that in your email.
So pretty much they're saying is if they fight it hard enough, we can pretty much eradicate Sarah's story from your story, which, as all of us know in the world of human beings, with more voices is more power. So, and that's another reason a lot of victims don't come forward because they don't have a Diana, they don't have a Sarah, they do not have another person that had the same experience as them with the same perpetrator that they can stand side by side and say, I can corroborate her story because the same fucking thing happened to me. So once you knock one of us down, it weakens the other person's credibility, which is super shitty and serves zero purpose besides protecting a predator.
Yes. It's breaking my brain a little bit right now because I'm hearing you say all this stuff, but it makes no sense. Other than it does make sense and the system does work. The system is doing exactly what it was set up to do, which is protect not victims. So she also told you She told you that if Iowa Bowie did pull his license,
Mhm.
that she would be able to, the attorney for Isby would be able to include that in their case, even if they wouldn't be able to include the details or anything else about your case or your abuse, that they would at
Mhm.
least be able to tell, or she would at least be able to put in her investigation that Iowa has also pulled his license.
The whole thing was just so confusing. Like, it was just like, "Oh, we'll use it if it's convenient, but we won't use it if it's not convenient, and this can get blocked, but that might not get blocked, and we're gonna wait for Iowa." It was all just very convoluted is all I remember, and I remember every time we got information, it felt almost more frustrating because it was just like it always seemed like it added a layer of process
Yeah.
or confusion.
Confusion.
So it's like
Yes, for me, confusion.
we would wait 3 months for an update, and then we would get an update,
Mhm.
and I'd be like, "Wait a minute. What? There's a door number 4 now that we didn't know about that we have to go walk through and see what comes out the other side." And I think we also didn't realize that he would have the teacher would have the ability to participate in the investigations in the way that he was able to, which, he didn't really. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like the whole thing was just a little bit more, like, convoluted. Like, he was able to kinda delay everything by not being served his papers. And I remember them both boards getting pretty pissy about it and being like, he's clearly just trying to evade, or like he's just slowing the process down. And to
Mm.
your point, like he lawyered up. And then it was like, okay, well, the lawyer's going to slow everything down because that's a lawyer's job. And so they could nickel and dime him, which I'm not mad about, take all his money. But like, it's sucky when you're on the other end of it. Like, but I also want this to be resolved and I want this to like come to some kind of conclusion.
Like you said, this was the time where we were sending both this attorney and Jessica, the other attorney from the school
Hmm.
investigation, because these are two different investigations. There's the local district level investigation, and then all they would be able to do is terminate him. Like that's what they're investigating. That would be the
Yeah.
outcome, desired outcome. And then with excuse me, with ISB, they're the licensing board, so they're the ones that are actually going to pull the license. So they are two different investigations. But with both of them, we were sending them so much information. You said that you
Hmm.
sent her your full police report along with all your timelines, your diary entries, and your classmates' statements. So
Hmm.
they had that silver platter, as you have
Oh,
said.
yeah. It had garnish, baby.
Mm. Mm-hmm. A little
There was
bit of
parsley.
parsley.
Oh, yeah. There was
Both
parsley
said
up on that
parsley.
bitch. Oh, so so we're in the winter of our
Yeah, we're in like
discontent. Uh,
January.
we're in the
We're in
winter.
the
I'm
uh-huh.
trying to remember when I Bowie,
I think it's Aya Bowie, right?
I
Aya?
Bowie,
Yeah, yeah. Aya
IOB.
Bowie.
Okay, so at a certain point, they announced that they had 6 counts of misconduct against him.
I think that was December. So
Okay,
maybe
so
you should
that's what I
talk
was gonna
about that.
say. So, you know, there was an investigation going on in Iowa against him, and the wheels of justice were moving slowly. And I was having to, check their website every month because they gave me a case number associated with the investigation, and then I'd have to see if there was any update. And yeah, I think it was the winter time that they had announced within their board meeting. So their investigator had presented, her investigation, and then they were able to say, okay, there's 6 counts of misconduct that we're officially charging him with. The misconduct counts that they put against him were as follows. Number 1, sexual involvement or indecent contact with a student. Number 2,
Boo.
boo. Okay, so this is, just to be fair, this is, or not to be fair, but like this is based off of everything that I provided them with, and then whatever their own internal investigation included, which I will say is a little infuriating that we don't know what anyone else dug up, because I'm always like, what if there was something else that these boards dug up that we don't know about?
That's
Oh,
like the missing puzzle piece. I
God, it
think about
drives
that
me.
all the time.
It's true. But to be fair, if they had found any proof of anything else involving anyone else, I feel like that would have sparked another investigation. But you and I wouldn't know about it because we would not have been privy to the information because it's all by code. Anyways, number 1 was sexual involvement or indecent contact with a student. Number 2, sexual exploitation of a minor. 3, committing or soliciting any sexual or otherwise indecent act with a student or any minor. 4, soliciting, encouraging, or consummating a romantic or otherwise inappropriate relationship with a student. 5, failing to make reasonable effort to protect the health and safety of the student. 6, conducting professional business in such a way that the practitioner repeatedly exposes students to unnecessary embarrassment or disparagement. I think those last two are very interesting, and I appreciate that Iowa has them on there as possible
Yeah.
rulings against people because I think those strain to, without saying it, acknowledge the mental health outcome for a survivor, right? Like
Yes.
that you did not protect that kid's health or safety, which also I will say they were very, the police in both states were very diligent about asking about condom use. And I also wonder if that is classifies within that realm of like you're endangering their health in some way
Hmm.
because you're not having like protected, well, you're not protectively sexually assaulting them. I don't want to say sex because that, implies it's a different thing. Um and then yeah, saying repeatedly exposing students to unnecessary embarrassment because, that is a reality for a lot of kiddos. Like if something like this comes out when a kid is still in a school, unfortunately, the kid is the one that gets shamed.
That's what I was just thinking.
And I know that for myself, the few years after high school, like I talked about this in another recording. Like I had a family member that made a joke about it. Like I had a few people from my hometown that would just like joke about it like it was something funny. And it's like that is embarrassing and that is damage and that is harm that is happening to a survivor. So, anyways, Iowa board listed those 6 points of misconduct as their official what they were working towards charging him with after their investigation.
And this was, yeah, like in December. So I remember when you told me this, it blew my mind because here I am in Illinois, supposedly the more progressive state of the two. Here I am, a dead silence from, at this point, also the school investigator. Like she
Mhm.
ghosted me for 3 months. And then you called me and gave me this update. And I just had so many questions. I was like, "What?" They first of all, they were like, "Yes, this is quote unquote like worth investigating. This is worth our time. We're going to look into this." Oh, and we have found enough information in this kind of short amount of time
Mhm.
to file or to cite, I don't know what the word would be,
Yeah.
uh, 5 misconduct
6.
charges? 6! 6! And, like, 18 years later,
Yeah.
it really felt, it just felt like my mind was all over the place at this point because it was just not, there was nothing that I was expecting to happen was actually happening.
Yeah,
It was just
because
like a big dose of reality.
well, and we talked about it before, but like the reality is the Iowa board didn't even have to take my and they didn't even have to take my report because technically their statute of limitations is 3 years unless it's a special circumstance, right? Like unless so it's just strange. Why even have a fucking statute of limitation then if you're just gonna fucking whatever. But so like and he hadn't lived in the state for almost
Right.
20 years. Like I mean I do think me making the point that odds are he's going to lose his job in Illinois. He has ties to Iowa. There's a strong probability that if he loses his career in Illinois, he will come to Iowa. So they did have skin in the game, right? Of like, okay, we don't want this guy coming back
That's true.
and we could have prevented him from coming back into our districts and like abusing Iowa kids again. So they did have skin in the game, but it felt like such a, oh, Sarah's just going to file that and it won't matter. And it will just kind of be a paper trail thing.
Yes.
Just like me filing my police report was like, it doesn't matter. Sarah's just going to file this to have as a paper trail and it will never come in handy, which is not true either and has come in handy
Yeah.
in other
And
places.
it really shows, as frustrating and heartbreaking and psychologically torturing as the reporting process is, it's worth it. I mean,
Yeah.
for some people, in this situation, it was like
Hmm.
the fact that you were able to make both reports really helped. And you saying that if he loses his license, in Illinois, he could come back here to Iowa. Like
Mhm.
they both cases were kind of dependent on each other. So I think
Yeah.
that was also super frustrating why they weren't talking to each other, which is something you also
Oh,
suggested. You shared in the email that you
s
sent to Faith and I that you suggested the attorney for Isby to reach out to the attorney for the school investigator.
trying to connect the dots, and I think we did just have such an unusual our story is unusual. Like, we were really so dependent on each other for better or for worse at different times, our cases, that is, and I think that's what made everything feel so much more amplified and made the timelines. Because now I'm looking back at it, I'm like, "Oh, shit, dude, within, like, 5 months, they had, like, found him they had charged him with 6 counts of misconduct." That's not bad. That's 6 months, but at the
Never.
time, it felt like,
Yes.
"Why is this taking so long?" Like,
Yeah.
because we didn't understand the process, and it became very clear that that was jamming up Illinois, and Isby was gonna wait for Iowa. It was also this thing of how long does this guy get to sit there on
Mhm.
paid administrative leave
Not
while
even
all of
living in the state.
yeah, dude, which really brings up some interesting tax questions for me.
It makes me so mad.
Like,
It makes
taxpayer
me
dollars in
so
Illinois
mad.
were paying a guy to do absolutely nothing who was living in who wasn't even in Illinois.
Who was living with his mom in
Is
a different
mommy?
state.
Oh, this
Uh,
little mommy's basement.
and who never tried up until this point. At this point, he has not tried to prove his innocence. He has
No.
just denied. So he's
Yep.
not fighting for
Mm-mm.
himself, which says so much. He's making himself look bad by not being available to be like, what the
Mhm.
fuck are you doing? You're not working. You're home. Answer the door. So
He was
guilty.
probably just crying into his cat.
That poor cat. I feel sorry for that cat.
Oh, God.
So in the charges you mentioned, at this point in time, the word romantic was still in
Mhm.
there. And that
Okay,
is
but
no
then
longer a thing, right?
no, because remember our awesome researcher looked it up and I was fucking wrong. So I talked in a previous recording about how I spoke on a subcommittee specifically around the language for Iowa Board of Educational Examiners. And I had suggested they remove the word romantic and that they also remove their statute of limitation of 3 years because, like I have said many times on this pod, if I had just read that on the website, I never would have filed, and then none of the dominoes would have fallen, and that guy would probably still have a fucking job right now at your old school. I was wrong. The bill did not pass. So it had passed that stage of the process after I spoke with the subcommittee, and then it died and did not pass. So,
Yeah, that was a bummer because I in that episode we're both very excited of like, yay,
yeah.
change. Sorry, I was reading my notes. Did you talk about like any reasoning why it wouldn't have passed?
I don't know. Kristen probably knows. She's a researcher. She did the homework, but she said it was very confusing. And I
Oh
mean, it's one
yeah.
of those things where I think the bill was a fucking tucked into some other bill. I don't goddamn know. And it like failed out on something. Who knows? Like, there
Yeah.
is no reason to protect predators. And yet here we fucking are. And it's happening all around us all the time. So,
So you had said also, I think this was maybe the end of January, sometime in January, you said that the assistant attorney general in Iowa emailed
mhm.
you and said that she would petition for the file this month, but her hearing schedule is booked through July. So this month was January.
Okay.
So it was like the summer. So
Yeah.
what did you mean by she would petition for the file?
It's probably meant that that was the phase where it gets, like, handed off to her. So I think she had to petition
Okay.
for the investigative file, and I think this is where things really felt like they slowed down in Iowa
Yes.
because it was bam, 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 bam until that point, and then it was pretty much like, "Okay, this is now being put on the assistant attorney general's desk." Guess what? Her desk is booked till the summer, and so it just this nothing happened for pretty much January through July, I think. We just had to wait,
Uh
and there was nothing to
we
do
just
about it.
We had to wait, and because we had to wait for Iowa, that meant that we were also waiting for Illinois. It was just a
Yeah.
given at this point. We knew that until Iowa did anything with these potential charges, that Illinois wasn't going to be doing shit. So,
But also, that's just 6 months. of sitting there doing nothing. I think that was our point, is that everybody kept being, including the school investigator, I just kept being like, well, let's just see what these other people do. And it's like, why can't you, in the meantime, also do your own goddamn work and do your own investigation
Mhm.
so that when the time comes and Iowa does make a determination, you don't have to then start from the fucking beginning. You can say, awesome, I've got all my shit tied up. I've got their fucking ruling. I can now press this on to the next step. Done. I think that's
And
what was so infuriating to me. It was like, why can't these all be worked on at the same time?
And it was also infuriating that the school investigator, Jessica, told us both that, well, she changed her mind with you at some point, I think, that, or no, maybe she changed her mind with me, but she said at some point that she was not waiting for Iowa, that she would be able to
Mm.
turn up the heat. This is going to have to be
Mhm.
an episode about board investigation, which is totally
Mm.
fine. So we'll get into the rest of the school
Yeah,
investigation probably a different time.
she
But
told
she,
you one thing and then she told me another. It was all, and we talked about that in a previous recording, I think, where you were all like, "Bitch!" Like, which
yeah,
version is true? Also, I forgot we changed her name. So when you said Jessica, I was like, "Who the fuck is Jessica?" I was like, "What? Do I forget somebody?"
Jessica.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the boards were an interesting process, and then sometime in that process, that window, the spring. So this is the spring of what, 23 that we're going
Yes.
into? Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
spring of 23, after I told my story, because I was abused before you, every single one of them was like, I highly doubt this was the first time he did this. Like, he knew what he was doing too clearly for it to feel like his first go around. And so, and I agree. Like, I don't know. But I guess it's like, I guess every monster has to start somewhere, but I find it hard to believe. And there were a few students that names that came up, but nothing ever, no one ever confirmed anything had happened to them. So I would just like to put out there, dear listener, if you know who we're talking about and something did happen to you, please, for love of God, reach out, because we are here to hear it. Personally, Diana and I, not the podcast. Yeah, I think you and I have both always kind of felt that there's a strong probability that we are not the only two people that were physically abused by him. Because even for you, like, he was clearly creeping on kids when you were with him. And then what was he up to the years after you left him until we came
Mm-hmm.
forward? Like, I don't know, man. I think we got at least one more out there floating around in my estimation, but we may never know.
Well, and I think this is a nice little segue into the idea that I feel, and I'm thinking maybe you feel the same way, Sarah, that amongst our audience, there are definitely people who know who we're talking about.
Mhm.
And I think maybe some former students who are listening might have a story of their own to tell and
Mm.
perhaps do want to reach out to share their story in some way or just to talk to us. We welcome that. We've been saying that this whole time. Email us, reach out. If you hear something that is resonating with you and you want to reach out, we have made it very clear that we're here for that. I think what I'm trying to say is that, because I know that feeling of hearing something that switches on something in your brain
Mhm.
and makes you want to just go for it and like maybe think I want to tell the world what happened to me,
Mhm.
and I have to announce what happened to me. And that, yes, maybe that is what you want to do, but I think, Sarah, you said something in a recent episode of just take a breath,
Mhm.
give yourself some time, don't rush the process. I think it can be hearing us talk about it or hearing anyone talk about being a survivor, a victim of abuse, and doing anything to get some sense of justice. It can be appealing and really exciting and very uplifting and
Mhm.
empowering. But if you don't take it slow and you aren't protecting yourself or setting up safety nets,
Mhm.
it can really spiral. And we do not want any of our listeners this. We haven't said this in a while, but if you need to
Yep.
take a break at any point, please take a break.
Mhm.
We love knowing that buttons are being pushed, that switches are going off, but we just want people to take care of themselves and not rush into things that don't need to be rushed into.
Yes. And I think, it's always important to also point out that coming forward and speaking your truth in front of the world is not the right answer for everyone.
Yes.
It's not. And I think, you and I have had this conversation one-on-one before of I think some survivors. I personally feel like I have known some people in my life that have suffered abuse and will never talk about it and somehow view my loudness about it as a criticism of their silence. And
Mm.
I don't feel that way towards those people. I want them to process what happened to them. And if that's between the privacy of them and their therapist and they never tell another soul, that's fucking great. I'm not a huge fan of not processing because I do think it comes out one way or another. And a lot of times it's very self destructive. And I think it can really literally eat you alive, right? If you're not getting it out of your body in some way. Um, and I think we said this early on in the pod, but I think it's bears repeating is just like, yeah, it doesn't make you less strong if you aren't willing to scream it from a mountaintop what happened to you. Because if that doesn't serve you, then don't fucking do it. I think my urge for if there ever was another victim of the teacher or abuser to reach out to us would 100% just be for you and I to be able to fucking emotionally help that person process what happened to them and nothing else. Like if that person exists and if they said, "Hey, here I am, this happened to me. I don't want anyone else in the world to know." I would still feel like so grateful that we were able to just be a sounding board for them even if it was one conversation one time.
Yeah.
Because I do think there is true value in being able to share, your experience with at least somebody. So I don't know. Yeah. I think it's a good thing to just put out there of like, yes, I think we have had people reach out and I know that I've had people personally reach out, just kind of sharing their experiences that the podcast has definitely dredged up some stuff for them. Um, we don't ever want our podcast to be something that's negatively impacting anybody. We want this to be a practice in strength and healing and, finding joy between the bullshit. And if that's not happening for anybody listening, yeah, take a break. Give us a breather. We'll be
We'll be
here.
here. Let's
These recordings are forever.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you're not a fan, and I'm also not a fan of someone just not processing. And it's not only because we want them to feel better or understand what happened, but also because when you don't process, those blinders are still there. And if
Mhm.
you're not able to acknowledge that you were abused or that an adult violated your boundaries or whatever the situation is, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to excuse that behavior when
Yeah.
you see it and then not step in and protect a kid. And then the cycle just fucking
Mhm.
continues. So,
I know, it's
yeah.
such a silly comparison, but I think about it as kind of like remember when we were growing up back in the 1900s? Uh and you would have your relatives that would make you hug them
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was like this.
Mexicans are very affectionate people. Yeah. Hugs
Oh,
and kisses.
oh, we didn't
And
kiss.
kisses.
We were not. No, 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 no. We were too Eastern European for that shit. We were no kissing. But I even had a family member that wouldn't give you your Christmas gift until you hugged them. Like it
That's
was, I know. And as a kid, we were always just like, "Meh, I don't like it." But now I feel like unless you have your head up your ass, like you do not do that to kids. You do not, even your own family, you do not force a hug on them. And I feel like it's such a simple, small cultural shift, but to me is huge because to me it is it's such a easy, small way to just respect a child's body and
Mhm.
respect their comfort as an adult. And I sometimes I think of it as just being something that simple of like, I never thought about it before until somebody pointed it out to me. And then I had that realization and then I changed my behavior. So exactly what you're saying of like, if you never have that aha moment of realizing what happened to you are not going to be able to spot it when it's happening to other people. and you're not going to be able to change your behavior or anyone's behavior around you because you still are oblivious to what's going on.
Yeah, and that example that you gave of letting a kid know, or just straight up not saying, if you want something, you have to physically touch me first.
Mm.
That's an example of teaching kids consent. I
Mhm.
think that there is among the people, the many groups of organizations that want to protect kids, there is this kind of sector that thinks that teaching consent is not okay to kids.
Mhm.
Like that if you're teaching consent, you're somehow telling them it's okay to have sex.
Yeah.
And teaching consent can also just be like what you just said, saying no to a hug,
Yeah.
saying, "No, I don't wanna be left alone with Uncle Gary." I don't know, like, it's
Sure.
you're teaching that it's okay for a kid, for a child to
Mhm.
have their boundaries respected.
But
Why
that's
like, that's
also,
okay.
and it's so complicated in some situations though. I will give you this example quickly. I don't have kids, you don't have kids. We don't have kids. We're not parents. Parenting sounds really fucking hard. This is my example of how parenting sounds really hard to me, and it is related to what we're talking about. So I have a friend and they have a daughter, and a family member bought the daughter a package deal for dance classes, like ballet classes, right? And the little girl, right before it was time to start going to these classes, she got freaked out and she got scared and she didn't want to go, right? Super normal, age appropriate. I think she was maybe 6 at the time, right? Like she didn't know the people, her friends weren't there. It was a new place. She didn't want to go. And so the mom was being very like, okay, then we're not going to go. And the dad was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, we need to push her to try new things. Because if we don't push her to try new things and we let her anxiety to get in her way, she's not going to have all these experiences and maybe she'll miss out on something that she could end up really loving. And this is like an opportunity for her." And at first I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense, right?" Like because you do have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and you do have to try new things, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense." And then the mom was like, "Yeah, but then I'm teaching my 6-year-old daughter that she has to go do something with her body that she's not comfortable doing to appease her adult family members because they paid for the package." And I was like, "Ooh, wait a minute." Like I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh shit. Oh god." And I was like, "No, that also makes a ton of sense." And I just remember saying to Carl, like, "Ew, parenting's hard." Like, I was like, "This
This is
sounds
why I have a
terrible."
cat and plants. Yes, so I think I would side with the dad if the situation was different. If it was like, I don't know, Lego club or something,
Yeah.
where like the thing that is going to be stared at is an item, not
Mhm.
a body of a
Yeah.
kid. And also, yes, like kids are mean, people are mean, adults are mean. If who
Mhm.
wants to dance in front of anybody, especially when you're a kid, especially if you got to wear the little uniform. And there's also like, would she be comparing herself to other people? Like, there's so many
Yeah.
reasons to just respect the fact that she's saying no,
Mhm.
thank you.
I
So
think the
I agree with
solution
the mom.
I think the solution ended up being is that they had her go to the first class, but they did not make her participate. And so she got
Oh,
to
okay,
go to the class and observe the class and the other kids and then decide, and then she got to decide if she wanted to do it, which I think was a
that's
very,
lovely.
I think that's the solution. I could be making that up. I do believe that's how it went down. But that kid is still in dance as far as I know. And so I think it,
Oh,
it worked out. But I think that's, you're putting the power, to your point, back in the kid's hands, because
mhm.
then it is about like the decision that she made about wanting to participate. Because you're not wrong, girl. I took dance and there was some mean girls in those dance classes. And one poor girl like peed her pants in class and everyone made fun
Oh,
of her. And she had her little leotard on and her little pantyhose and she's full of pee. And it was so
yeah, I
sad.
bet you she's got some
Like,
issues today.
oh God, it was in front of so many kids. It was
No.
bad. I know. And I just think back about that like more than I should have. Like that poor, poor little girl. Like she just had to go potty, but she couldn't because it was like, we're doing this right now. And she was shy and like didn't want to like disrupt the
Yeah.
class. Oh my God. I don't even know that girl's name. She was just some other girl in a dance class, but sorry, PP ballerina. It was a tough break. It's a tough break.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the messaging that we get as
Mm-hmm.
kids. And I think now, well, that's not true. I just said that there's some people out there that think it's okay to be like, give me a hug.
Well, because I
Um,
think a lot of people take it now as an offense against them. Like, well, this kid doesn't want to hug me. What do you think? There's something like they
Yes.
think it's like it's saying something bad about them. And it's like, no, dude, it's just the kid. And also, a lot of kids got sensory issues now, dude. Like, you can't just be touching them, they'll freak out. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I have family members that do not enjoy hugs. And 99% of the time I remember that. And I like give them a fist bump or I throw them an elbow and we just tap elbows. Like we have things. Every once in a while I forget and then I hug them and I always feel like a dick afterwards. I'm like, damn it. That kid doesn't like that. And I did it anyways and I forgot. But I think it's all about effort. You can't be perfect, but I think as long as your heart's in the right place and you're trying to respect people's boundaries, it's a good place to start.
One of us was saying, culturally, touch and body, it's different. And
Mhm.
I do remember growing up and being like pressured and being made to feel guilty because I didn't want to hug people, like whether it was
Mhm.
family or just like strangers or my parents' friends. And in Spanish saying things like no seas maleducadas, like don't be rude, basically. Like you're being rude by not
Oh my
hugging
god.
this person. And like hearing that, even now it's an expectation. Like wherever I go to a family party, you greet everyone with a hug and a kiss. And like I don't love
Mhm.
doing it. But even now as an adult, like I don't feel like I can say that. And
Yeah.
it's and then it makes me feel like, oh, am I not Mexican enough because I don't love being touched and hugging? Like,
Yeah, I dated a guy once that his family all kissed on the mouth, and I thought it was
ugh,
the absolute weirdest fucking thing in the world. And then I remember his parents started trying to do it to me, like, after we had
no,
dated for long enough, and I was like, "No." And he was like, "What
no.
the fuck's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What's wrong with me? You're telling me I need to kiss your dad. Like, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, the fuck?" And so then I settled on I'll give you like a side cheek. You know, we can do touch cheeks and make pecky noises, but that's as far as it's fucking going. Like I am not. It just freaked me out. And then I remember him being like, "Well, you don't kiss your dad on the mouth." I'm like, "No, no, I
What?
do not.
Oh my god.
No, I do not kiss my dad on the mouth because it's fucking gross." Like, but it's cultural. Do you know? Like it was normalized in his family, and it wasn't like they were being sexual. It was just what they do. So like, I think it's important to point out of like we all have our levels of comfort, and
Yeah.
mine was not kissing my boyfriend's parents on the mouth. That was not in my comfort zone. But then I was painted to be a prude, right?
Rude
Or
and yeah.
rude, that I was being like, "Oh, you're so off-putting or you're so cold." And it's like, I don't want to
I'm
kiss your
just gonna
dad.
I don't want to kiss
I
your
don't.
dad.
I'm so
Oh my god.
sorry. It's really
I
weird.
remember I remember seeing the teacher kiss his mom on the lips and it grossed me the fuck out. I think it was the first time I
Ew.
saw an adult man kiss his mom on the lips
Ugh.
and no, thank you.
I
No,
don't
thank
remember
you.
them kissing on the lips when I met her, but I think I was distracted by just the like death ray dagger eyes I was getting from her at the time. So,
Well,
anyways.
um, yeah, so I think our original plan was to keep talking about the school investigation, and
Mm,
then we ended up talking about the board investigation, which is okay
yeah.
because, yeah, there wasn't really much happening at the school investigation.
No, we're doing the
So
timeline.
we're doing the timeline. And yeah, like you mentioned, once Iowa we did it was a ruling, right? Like they did a ruling in December.
And that
I
was
have in
like
my
at this, it was
notes.
the 6 counts. Yeah. That's when they were like, boop, 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 boop,
Yes.
boop. This is what the
Yeah.
investigation, this is what's coming out of the investigation that we are moving forward with these 6 counts of misconduct. And then it moved
Uh-huh.
down the pipeline to the assistant attorney general. And then that was when she was like, I'm booked up till the summer. And then Iowa just kind of, nothing happened until the
And then
summer.
nothing happened. Nothing happened in Illinois either. So then the ruling was for the Aya Bowie hearing probable cause to revoke his license. And then we waited for a few months. So we'll continue that story next time.
Yes, we
We'll
will.
get back into the school investigation.
So,
And
Diana,
yeah. Mhm.
what is your homework assignment for our listeners this week?
Didn't I do the last one? Wasn't
I
it?
don't.
I think I did. I said dancing with yourself.
Hmm. Okay, it's
Homework
my turn.
assignment.
Homework
Yeah.
assignment. Oh, okay. Homework assignment. Have you respected a child's boundary lately? Is there a kiddo in your life that maybe you're making assumptions about what they're comfortable with? Parents, question the messaging you received as a kiddo because that's part of it, right? Is like,
Mhm.
oh, I grew up being told I have to hug people, so I have to make kids hug me. Or I grew up being asked, do you have a boyfriend? So I'm going to do that to little girls. Or I grew up being told I was pretty, so I'm going to do that to little girls. Like, just take a beat.
Yeah.
Think about what you're saying to kids, about what you're messaging to them, and if you can kind of dismantle some of that generational bullshit.
Fuck yeah. I love that. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to Blooming After Grooming. We have a website, bloomingafterpod.com, and Instagram at bloomingafterpod.com, an email, bloomingaftergrooming@gmail.com, and a TikTok, which is also Blooming After Pod. Yes?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
look at
Because
us.
we're
We did it.
fucking consistent and we are professional and we totes know what we're doing.
Let's just throw in another resource in today's
Yeah.
episode. Today's resource is the One Love Foundation, which is a national nonprofit with the goal of ending relationship abuse, particularly when it comes to educating young people with tools and resources to see the signs of healthy and unhealthy relationships and bring life-saving prevention education to their communities. So on their website, which is joinonelove.org, they have some resources about healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. They also, which I really appreciate, they have a page in Spanish. So it's called One Love en Español. And they have other information. So check them out. Joinonelove.org, the One Love Foundation.
Very nice. Yeah, we need to get back into putting more resources on here.
Well, on that note, thanks for listening, and go bloom some onions. Goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye. The bloomin' onion, I would assume
I
so.
thought they
Bloomin'
discontinued because it has like a 10,000 calories or something.
Oh, who cares? People want to eat what they want to eat. I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer. One of the vampires really likes the bloomin' onion.
So onion is okay for vampires because it's not garlic?
Yeah, it's totes fine.